Today on the Girl Defined Show, we are talking about your assumptions about us. Why are we doing this? Because today is our 100th episode, which is crazy. You have been with us for 100 episodes. It seems like yesterday we launched this podcast, and so we want to bring some fun your way. You have some crazy assumptions, and I don't know where you got these. Some are true, some are not. Let's jump in and celebrate and talk about these today. Hey guys, it is Kristen here and Bethany. We're sisters, founders of Girl Defined, and so pumped for this 100th episode. If things sound a little different, or maybe if you're watching this, you may notice that things look a little different.
It's true.
And that's because we decided to take advantage of this 100th episode to completely change the entire way that we film and record the Girl Defined podcast and our videos. I don't know if it was a smart decision or a really stupid one, because we prepped ahead of time, but we didn't actually practice setting everything up, like all of our technology, our camera, the new way we plug in our mics, our lights, the set, until the day of. And so we were hoping to record this a lot sooner today, but we'll just say that it's almost the end of the day and we're just recording because technology is hard.
It's been giving us so much grief. So you might watch our next episode and be like, everything looks different again. We will figure this out. Now, why are we doing this different set?
Yeah, we just thought it would be fun because we noticed like a lot of people are recording, like video recording their podcast rather than just doing the audio recording. And we were like, that's really fun because then if you're someone who likes to watch, you can actually watch the show and you can see the set, you can see us, you can like interact more personally, it feels like. Or if you're like, I'm totally an audio girl, I do my podcast on the go, on the run, great. But it also enables us to give you shorter clips, like the nuggets. You know how sometimes in the middle of a podcast, you're like 40 minutes in and then that's like the gold nugget. But if you're not committed, like I'm not sometimes, to listening to an entire hour-long podcast, I mean, I am a lot of times, but sometimes this will give you the nuggets because we can clip out the video and audio clips together and bring them to you on social media and let you in on like the best stuff that might happen later on.
So we thought we'd take a step back and answer some assumptions. Some of you have been around Girl Defined Ministries for like 8+ years, and some of you are new. You found us through the podcast or through YouTube or just through social media, and it's always been fun when we pull out these like assumptions. We've done a few YouTube videos back in the day, like years ago, and they were so really popular because when do you get a chance to sit down and basically host a conversation with the podcast that you love to listen to? So basically, you are hosting us right now because we asked you on Instagram, which if you're not following on Instagram, @GirlDefined, we asked you, what are your assumptions about us? And there are some really hilarious ones. So just pretend that you are interviewing us and you're asking these assumptions and we are answering them. And this is just a fun way to connect as a sisterhood and to celebrate. We also want to give away something free though.
Yes. So we have a free 30-day devotional to celebrate this 100th episode. If you're listening, then that means you're a really faithful listener. So you get this free gift from us, and it is a 30-day devotional to help you reach beyond yourself. It's actually a devotional we created years ago. Still so good. And if you find yourself in this selfie, me time, all about me culture, it's easy to get so self-focused and forget that that God's goal for us as Christians is to look beyond ourselves, to look to Him, to serve Him, glorify Him first and foremost, and then to use our lives to pour out and bless and serve others. And so reaching beyond myself, that's the title of this 30-day devotional. It's super good, and you can download it for free over on our website at girldefined.com/devotional.
Honestly, this is kind of a breath of fresh air because we have been really taking some deep dives.
Oh my goodness.
Over the past few weeks.
If you have not listened to, you did an episode all about 8 reasons you're not a feminist. That was so good. We had a whole podcast that came out all about sex ed and purity culture and how each of those ditches is not a good ditch you want to land in. Like, where's the biblical center? And then I did an amazing part 1 and part 2 all about birth control, family planning, when to have babies, why to have babies for single and women, single, married, and married women. If you're like, well, I'm not even in that season of life, it's so good to be thinking about these really important topics. So check out the last few episodes.
It was like 96, 97, 98, 99.
So like hammering it. Good stuff.
Okay, let's jump straight into these assumptions. And we're just going to go back and forth with the ones that you sent in. So first one, Kristen is more of a girly girl than Bethany.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny.
What would you say?
Well, I wonder, I'm trying to think, obviously people make these assumptions based on what they see on social media and what they see like, I guess what they hear. Because growing up, I feel like you were more the tutu girl later on.
No, I was the tomboy growing up.
You were the tomboy as a kid, but then you got in that tutu phase where you were all about like the
That was
the
for
tools.
like 2 years.
Okay, but I would say yes. Overall, I'm for sure more the girly girl as I think about our childhood. I was
sure,
all I
right.
had in
Yeah,
my
yeah,
image
yeah,
was
yeah.
you wearing tulle skirts.
I'm like, what? Growing up, I didn't
You
care
were more
about
the
my hair.
tomboy. You didn't care about your hair. You didn't care about anything. You were just like, I am here for whatever's happening and I don't care how I look. And I was more focused on like, I had the lipstick. I would brush my hair in this super tight ponytail. Yeah. That's true.
I would say even today, you're more like, do your makeup every day if you're going anywhere. And I'm more like, on a good day.
On a good day.
If we're recording.
Is today a good day?
Well, I mean, here I am.
Yeah.
Okay. So that answers that. Your turn.
Okay. Let me pull these up. Okay, there was like some really random funny ones. Okay, so,
You just start at the top.
Okay,
Start at the top.
that you're both super outgoing. Are we both super outgoing? Okay, this is interesting.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about introverts, extroverts.
So that's another question, yeah.
Oh, is that coming? Okay, so you're both outgoing. What would you say to that? Are we?
I would say definitely like we both have that capability and we can pull it out. Like we both can be extremely outgoing to the point of overwhelming. Like when we speak places and we go places, just our personalities can be a lot to handle.
Overwhelming, like just
like, I mean, our podcast people have said, oh, you're shocking our ears with your energy. So
our voices can get
just
really
like,
loud.
you know, more like, hi, how's it going? And then we can be very much, we're
Yeah.
very tall too. So somebody's like,
we're both 6'1". That is true. I would say, yeah, we're both really, I'd say we're both outgoing. But the funny thing is, we're not going to talk about the introvert extrovert yet.
yeah,
We're not.
we'll get to it.
Okay.
Like
yeah.
when it comes to a party, you and I both love to be in charge. We love to be like commanding the room.
Yes. But I don't always get my energy from parties. I guess that's coming later. I can feel kind of, I really want to pour out relationally. Like when I'm in a group, I'd rather be like communicating and talking to people and like more than just sitting there. Although in the depths of my heart, maybe selfishly, I would rather just be sitting there, but then I'm too like self-conscious to just sit there because then I feel awkward.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm like, am I like loving people because I want to or because I just don't want to feel awkward?
Yeah.
That's where it gets to me. Like,
I mean,
am I outgoing because I want to be or because I feel like I need to be? I don't really know.
The schedules we maintain though, I mean, I guess that doesn't come down to outgoingness, but you and Zach, I'm like dead fish compared to y'all. Dave and I, like, we're so much lower pace than y'all.
Yeah.
I'm always shocked. I'm like, I need like 10,000 naps just hearing about how fast y'all run.
Zach is the one too.
Really?
He is like the yes man. There's like something going on at church. There's people getting together. He's like, oh yeah, sure, we'll be there. Yeah, let's do it. And I'm kind of like, maybe I would say yes to maybe 50% of the things. And he's like probably like 95%. Like, sure, why not? Although lately we both are really tired by like 9 p.m. I'm like ready to
old,
sleep.
folks. We're gonna
Okay.
You have a lot of fun when the two of you hang out. Like you can laugh at the same stuff. We can go both directions.
Should we tell them what happened right before we started recording? We had a face-off about each other's dogs.
Well, because Kristen's dog is sitting right there.
Right next to us on the couch.
And so I decided to let her know that her dog is not trained well and she caters to every need, which is, I mean, we can agree.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the example. Like, you know, when you walk into, like, you come to someone's house and you shouldn't, like, if the dog's like, you shouldn't just be like, oh, everyone hurry, pet the dog so it will be quiet. Like, you train it to not bark and then the owner will pet if it wants. But when you come over, Sadie, the dog, it's like always the demand. Everyone acknowledge Sadie. Hurry, so she'll stop barking. And so I was just saying, that's not. My dog is passed away suddenly, so we shouldn't even speak of her.
We shouldn't speak of her because her favorite hobby was chasing people down and biting their butts.
It happened 3 times. It wasn't a favorite hobby.
And everyone listening is like, that's 3 times too many.
She was a small, white, fluffy dog who died suddenly the day between a Girl Defined conference. We had a 2-day conference and she died suddenly in the middle.
So I think it's clear that we each love our dog and we each see the best in our dog and that we minimize the problems of our dog. It's very clear.
Okay, I would say, okay,
Moving
anyways.
on. Do we laugh? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we do. We can we can have it. We're very intense personalities. So when it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's bad. It's just
Okay.
10 of 10 either way.
We have similar humor.
Yeah.
Like the most stupid jokes ever we think are hilarious.
We love to prank each other. We love to still hide behind corners and like scare each other, even though we're in our 30s. Right?
Yes. I would say we laugh a lot. We laugh more than we have like showdowns about our dogs.
I mean, I love, she has 2 boys. I have a boy, and I really enter the potty humor. I'm like, this boys poop. And then I think it's funny.
And now she laughs. Yeah. It's perfect. I think boy moms fit us at this point. Your little girl will be entering quite the scene, I have to say. Okay, moving to a more serious question. Actually, it's not that serious. You think dancing is biblical?
Is biblical?
Is biblical. Well, okay, that's interesting because there are multiple mentions of dancing in the Bible. I don't know what kind of dancing they're referring to because there is a spectrum of dancing from like really raunchy sensual dancing, club style dancing.
In the Bible?
No.
What are you talking about?
In life in general. These days down to like the far other side, maybe some sort of really old fashioned country kind of square dancing or something. I don't know. But like, okay, biblically though, we saw David dancing before the Lord. We know
did lose all his clothes. He was dancing so hard, he lost. How do you lose them all? Anyways.
that is some serious dancing. I've never done that.
Well,
I think Miriam, didn't she, after they crossed through the Red Sea, there was like song and dance happening there. I'm sure there's other times in scripture I can't think of.
I'm not good with my dancing
Anyways, but I think biblically, I think it all comes down to, yes, we do think that there are many types of dancing that are biblical in the sense that they are honoring to God. And you don't have to compromise to enjoy them. I know recently our sister got married and there were some really fun English country dances that we were all learning. They're like those, in those old like 1800s movies, they're lining up and it's like very beautiful and kind of formal and someone calls out the steps and that's really fun. But we also enjoy like two-stepping, swing dancing. Yeah. That's really fun. But again, anything can go too far where it can become sensual, where it can become maybe for a person like this isn't helpful for me in my stage of life, dancing with this particular guy. It's not helpful. Okay, don't do it. That's not going to be good for you.
It's like a personal conviction, a lot of it.
Yeah. But then I think there are clearly dances, certain types of modern dancing that would not be, and I'm sure they had the Ancient of Days sensual dancing as well, that were not God honoring. So it's all about like context, the type of dancing, personal conviction, making sure it honors the Lord. Next.
I have a spicy one. Okay. You don't believe consent has a place in marriage and men are entitled to sex at all times.
Oh, wow.
If this is a genuine assumption, I'm sorry if you got this idea from us because that is definitely a false assumption.
Yeah, that is not true at all.
I think that, we go back to scripture and Kristen and I actually wrote an entire book called Sex, Purity, and the Longings of a Girl's Heart, Discovering the Beauty and Freedom of God-Defined Sexuality. And we talk in that book all about God's amazing design for us as sexual beings because we are sexual beings before we get married. We're sexual beings after we get married. And just the good place for God's design for sex, which is within the covenant of marriage, that beautiful intimacy. But I do think there are some conservative circles of Christianity that would say that. And I've heard people talk about that. Like, you just need to keep your husband happy. And if that's what he wants, that's what you need to give to him. And we would actually completely disagree with that. We think that sexual intimacy is a mutual giving and loving and enjoying, and each one should be thoughtful of trying to love and serve the other. Yeah. But there are seasons of life where with sickness, with separation, where coming together intimately isn't even possible, And so just having that heart of understanding and wanting to grow in intimacy in other ways besides just like bodies coming together. Because that form of intimacy, I mean, just bodies coming together isn't even like that can be very shallow and very meaningless, So it's the whole,
it can be sex, but not really intimacy, and
exactly.
that there's no relational component to it.
Yeah. So I would say that is definitely a false assumption. Husbands are not entitled to sex whenever they want. Wives are not entitled to sex whenever they want. But I really encourage you to grab a copy of Sex, Purity, and the Longings of a Girl's Heart to take a deeper dive on that.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. That was a deep one. Okay, someone asked, you are reformed. That's their assumption.
Oh, that's interesting.
You are reformed. So by this, I'm guessing reformed as in like the 5 points of Calvinism.
Typically,
kind
right?
of reformed. Yeah. Typically. I would say, so we grew up evangelical free, non-denominational.
Oh, not reformed for sure.
Not reformed at all, but not against all of the 5 points of Calvinism. I think this is interesting. We've never really talked about this.
I don't think we're on this. I wouldn't. I don't think we're exactly on the same page 100%.
Oh, the two of us.
Yeah, I would say we're each individual on a spectrum. We both believe the core of Scripture.
Yes.
Of Christ and salvation through faith by grace, all of that.
Yeah.
But I don't think, exactly those 5 steps or whatever we might see the same.
Ooh, I'm so curious now. I'm curious. We need to talk about this. Well, we both have grown and changed a lot. I would say my husband, Zach, was definitely more reformed.
Oh, 1,000%.
Than I was. But since getting married in the past 10 plus years of marriage, there are things that we've both kind of grown and changed in when it comes to our doctrinal beliefs. And I would say there's so much theology out there in the Reformed camp that I do agree with, but there are some things that I don't agree with. Yeah. And I know you might feel the same, where there might be some and not some. And even, like you said, you and I might not be totally.
I would definitely not consider myself reformed. If someone was like, are you reformed? I would be like, no. I literally didn't even know what tulip was until I was in my 20s. At our church, they never talked about tulip.
And tulip, for anyone listening, they're like, is it you're talking about flowers?
The 5 points of Calvin.
Yes. It's the acronym for the 5 points of Calvin. Calvinism.
And I would say our parents are not reformed.
Yeah. No.
So anyways, it's some crossover.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just for a quick deep one.
This is really interesting. Someone assumes you are looking for people to help take over and transition out of girl-defined ministries since motherhood. So we are looking for that way out.
Are we?
Which is interesting. I could see why people would think that with bringing on our team members, and they've been on social media some more. So I can actually see why you would assume we might be
on the way out. Well, we have good news for some and bad news for others. We are not leaving. We are not, but we are transitioning. And we did a podcast on this recently all about how our role of motherhood, being moms now, has changed the way we approach ministry. We don't have the flexibility, the freedom, just the quick pop by, record something like we could before. We have to be very structured. We have to plan out full days to get all of our recording done, to get work done. We have to line up someone to watch the boys while we can get stuff done. And we do more batch work than just kind of on the fly like we did before.
Yeah.
So no, we're not going anywhere. We are so pumped and passionate for Girl Defined, for reclaiming God's design for womanhood, for bringing back biblical womanhood. If you've seen our recent merch, our fall collection that came out, it's all about God's design for womanhood and standing firm and boldly and passionately on a beautiful timeless design, and not just giving way to what the culture says is now the new normal. So we're not going anywhere. We are more passionate than ever, I would say. We just have to adjust and change the way that we work, the way that we do things.
Yeah, and it's not because we are we started Girl Defined, so we will be here until its grave. We really view this ministry as God's, just like everything in life, and we have been entrusted with it for this season. But if God made it clear that one or both of us needed to focus in a different direction and move on or pass this on, absolutely, we would. We have very open hands with Girl Defined Ministries, and we have very open hands with, we are here to serve and to give. And if that means kind of being the face and talking, great. If that means doing something different, passing the baton, awesome. But God has really not made that clear. And he's actually brought in more team members who have been able to fill different positions, enabling us to be more faithful at home and more faithful to Girl Defined. So it's actually been really cool to see.
An assumption, you both knew your spouse was the one really quickly.
Well, you saw Zach from behind, and I have to joke every time.
I saw Zach from the back first, and I thought he looked good from the back.
Why? Is that in one of our books?
Yes.
You describe it that way. It makes me feel so uncomfortable.
We were at a conference, and he was sitting 11 rows in front of me, and he stood up. Okay. It was just, he stood up. I'm really tall. He was tall. He looked well built. He just looked handsome from the back. And so I was intrigued, I wonder who that guy is. And then he turned around.
He was even better from the front.
Got even better. And then he was really handsome from the front too. Okay. And Yeah, I did not know he was the one in that moment because he was 18. I was 19 when we met. And I was physically attracted to him. And then we ended up meeting later that week at the conference. And I was attracted to his personality. I saw him like leading groups of people. Like we were all hanging out and he was kind of like the leader. And I was like, interesting. And then I found out that he lived only like 30 minutes from me, which this conference, people came from everywhere. So it's like he could have been from any like Washington or California. It's like he lived 30 minutes from me in Texas, which is huge. So then I'm like, whoa. And then I found out we had a lot of mutual friends. And I'm like, how have I never seen this guy before?
Yeah.
Long story short, I didn't know in that moment, but I was intrigued. And then, it was like 3 years later, 4 years later, many years of just being friends and having no clue if anything would ever happen. That was hard. I share all about that in Love Defined, our book, by the way. If you're needing a book on love and romance, relationships, how do you know if he's the one? I unpack all of that. We both do in Love Defined. But yeah, it wasn't, we both talk about, no, you were totally single.
I talk about singleness a lot.
And like how to thrive in that and like how marriage isn't the answer to your happiness. But yeah, I didn't know right away.
Yeah. Actually, my whole love story is in our newest book, which is crazy because I got married, how many years apart did we get married?
Our newest book.
8
not
years
part
apart,
of the plan.
Yeah. So our newest book, not part of the plan, Trusting God with the Twists and Turns of Your Story. That was the first book we wrote where it made sense for me to share my story because I've only been married for going on 4 years. So with Dave and I, we are 5.5 years apart in age. So I can tell you for sure, neither of us viewed each other as the one or with any interest when we first saw each other because I was like 22 and he was 16 when we first met.
That is wild.
And so we had zero, he was like this younger guy and I was like a grown woman. And so it was like, you don't even think of each other in that way. It wasn't really until years later when he was in his 20s and I was still scraping in my 20s that finally we noticed each other. And, the older you get, the less the age gap seems. Like it becomes less and less. But I share all about how hard, just my journey of waiting because I got married at 30 and for some people that's young. For some people, if you're in that place of waiting, it's hard. And I guess God knew that my husband was going to be 5.5 years younger. So I needed some patience, but I share all about that in Not Part of the Plan, Trusting God with the Twists and Turns of Your Story. And you can get all of this, anything we talk about, just go to our website, girldefined.com/shop. And all of this is on there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think you're up.
Oh, okay. Another one, the opposite of we have fun together. Someone says you secretly hate each other. So we'd have to confess the secret.
This would be a confession right now. Do we hate each other?
Okay, this is going to sound funny. I think our relationship is a lot like a marriage.
Yes, no, we've said this so many times. I joke about it.
If you work closely with someone, you can relate to those dynamics.
Yeah, where it's like you really do love each other, but because you are with each other constantly and not even physically with each other all the time, but working, collaborating, so much of our life is intertwined that you obviously and naturally have conflict like you would in a marriage where you're like, okay, we have to work through things just in ministry and leading a ministry that a lot of regular friends wouldn't have to work through.
Totally.
And even sisters, like finances and running a ministry,
big
but
decisions.
Working on big decisions and team things and collaborating in the future and then just daily work, getting together, each of the tasks that we each take on. And then there's our whole other side of our life, which is just being sisters and moms and getting together and having fun, non-work related. Yeah. So I would say, and we're both intense personalities.
Very.
Some people are just whatever. And everything's just whatever. It's not really like that for us. And so we have to work on giving each other grace as sisters, right? We have to work on that because naturally our intensity will just, we'll just say things like, oh, wow, that was really harsh. That's not a gentle answer. So, but we really are, I would say we're really best friends. We have sin.
Yes. I mean, I think that it's what our intense personalities and our difference of skills, in the intense way that they are, has really enabled us to accomplish what we've been able to accomplish, to write 5 books together. Co-authoring books together is no easy task, to continue to run this nonprofit and to have grown. I can see so much growth in each of us over the past 8 or 9 years since we started Girl Defined. And we've gotten better. Simple things like setting boundaries. When we're not working with Girl Defined, trying to focus on the moment of what are we actually doing? We're here with our kids or we're at the museum or whatever, and trying not to have business conversations. So it's just, like that with a marriage too. If a couple goes out to dinner, hey, let's not talk about the stressful or the kids. Let's
talk about work.
Yeah, you have to have boundaries. So I think the more we've set boundaries in our relationship to protect the fact that we're actually sisters too, I think really helps. So
I have a funny one for you.
What? Oh no.
Someone assumed that Bethany is a black sheep of the siblings.
What does that even you mean? Like, I'm like the random?
The black sheep, like you're secretly...
The outcast?
No, like isn't a black sheep like the rebel, like the rebellious one, like secretly, or...
That's hilarious. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so moment of truth. Are you the black sheep?
I am definitely not the black sheep, but I am the most vocal and outgoing, and I am the most present on social media, and I am the most like, forget whatever. I do not care. I'm going to say whatever I want, and I kind of have fun like poking the trolls, poking the bear. And that's not something many others in my family really enjoy. My husband, he's like, whoa. So it's in that way, I would say I'm the black sheep, where I find energy.
You run into controversy.
And I don't mind it. It doesn't keep me up at night. It's kind of like, whatever.
Yeah.
But I would say it's interesting. Y'all might not know this, all growing up, and even it's true of our personalities. You had way more of the rebellious tendencies and way more of like, I do not like authority. And I'm like, and I was the one who was like, we have a curfew. Like when we were in high school, like I would be like, we have a curfew. We need to be home. And you'd be like, it doesn't matter. It'll be fine. It's worth whatever happens. So
it's worth the consequence.
Like all growing up and stuff, you were definitely more the rebel.
That's true.
Which is crazy.
So maybe I really am still. I don't know. I would lead you astray. My poor younger sister. I was not a great leader. Definitely. Yeah. I think the key though is like, I didn't want to submit to authority. Yeah. And God has grown me in that. Obviously God is my greatest authority. So submitting to him is a big deal, but okay.
Okay. One of them was that an assumption that motherhood has been really hard for you.
That's interesting. Well, I would say motherhood has been honestly better than I ever could have imagined and more joy-filled. And especially the way that I became a mom through adoption of 2 older boys, now 12 and 8. There's just so many unknowns in that. Yeah. Like, I could hardly prepare. Yeah, I share the whole story to the adoption in our book, Not Part of the Plan, up until the adoption point. When we were writing the book, I was in process of adopting. Like it was all happening as we were writing. So I'm like, and things were happening that were like not part of the plan. But there were so many prayers that Zach and I prayed for our boys, and God answered every single one of them, and even prayers we didn't even think of to pray. And so the transition to motherhood has been hard. Like it is a humongous transition. Zach and I decided to homeschool as well. And so now I've got a 12 and an 8-year-old that I'm homeschooling 5 days a week and trying to, still keep up with Girl Defined and then church, life, friends, like all of the things, family, and it's just a lot. But I feel like now that we're in year 2, I'm in a much better groove, much better rhythm. My children can actually speak English now, so that's encouraging.
Yeah.
And so it's been hard, but I would say the good and like the joy has far outweighed the challenges that we've encountered. And I know that's not always the case in adoption. It can, like the challenges can be so big and so weighty for so long. There is still joy, but for me, I would say for sure, like there's been so much joy. I've loved being a mom. It's been awesome.
Well, and they are the best little boys. Davey, my son is obsessed with them. He just he calls them boys.
Yes.
So it's Christian and Caleb, but he refers to them as boys. So anytime we're going over to see the boys,
so
he
adorable.
Just is like, they're like his heroes. It's so cute.
Okay, another assumption is you girls are the life of the party.
I guess depending on
what kind of life
and who.
The life of the party. I would say for sure you're the life of the party. I would say I can be the life of the party if I want to be.
You host these big Christmas parties and things. And
that's true. I love
you
that
like to
party.
all right, everyone,
let's go. Yeah, we like to lead, and it's we like to plan and host, and we like to think of fun games and just ways to make the party really interactive and fun. Yeah. So in that sense, I guess maybe if you consider that the life of the party, but okay, if you're thinking life of the party, like the person who's always trying to get attention, like, woo, look at me, let me sing a solo. And they always want to be in the center of every moment. Yeah. I wouldn't say that's my desire.
Well, I don't think I'm that way either.
Okay.
I don't... I think, it's gotten less and less that way. The older we've both gotten, the less life of the party we've become. I feel like we've both become more homebodies. We've both become more introverted in ways. We've both just become less of needing that. So yeah, let's each do one more question and then wrap this up. Okay. You think your way of living is the only way of living?
Is it? I don't know. Yeah, I think that's a very honest assumption.
Yeah.
we don't think our way of living is the only way of living. And by that, I would even want to know, like, what do you mean by our way of living? Do you mean like our theology, what we believe, what we share about on Girl Defined, about like God's design for womanhood?
Like how we keep our houses clean, how we raise our families, like what
do you mean?
If we are all honest at the deepest of heart issues, I think a lot of us kind of think our way is the right way, because think whatever side of the spectrum you're coming on, like culturally, belief-wise, why do we get so frustrated with other people? Because we think like, well, their way is wrong. So I think in that tendency, just at the bottom of the day, pride-wise, a lot of us feel that way. Do we believe that the Bible is truth and that is that there's only one way to spend eternity forever in heaven with God?
Yeah.
Yes, we believe that the Bible is the way and that God is the only true God. So in that sense, do we have a hard line we divide, like what we think is truth? Yes. Do we think we always interpret scripture 100% perfectly? No, we're a work in progress. We're growing, we're learning. We get that there are a lot of, gray areas, I guess, in scripture, like areas where you have to pray and seek the Holy Spirit. And, like there are areas of conviction that can differ. So in those ways, like it's learning and seeking wisdom and growing.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay. Last assumption. And we're going to end on a lighter note. One of you assumes that we are crunchy.
Oh yeah. Crunchy. So some of you might have no idea what that is. It's like the super like all natural, organic, I have like chickens in my backyard and I don't have a single toxic chemical in my house. Like that would be the whole crunchy movement, like all the oils, everything.
Okay. We're not that. We're not what you just described.
We did not grow up crunchy.
No. And I don't have chickens or a cow.
Yeah.
But I do drink raw milk. I mean, that's kind of a controversial crunchy thing, right?
Yeah.
Like raw milk.
We are definitely not crunchy, but we definitely see the benefit in reducing like toxins in your home. We definitely see the benefit in trying to eat more whole foods, like things that actually like are grow in the earth and nourishing and, not just like shoving, I don't know,
like metabolic. Yeah. We are really both on the same track of like trying to eat in a more metabolic way where we are eating to fuel our bodies at a cellular level and taking into consideration everything we eat. Like, will this help my body or not? But that doesn't mean we don't have ice cream. I love ice cream or like Chick-fil-A. A cookie. Like we will still eat things.
Diet Coke.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't had any of that in a while.
Random Diet Coke.
But yeah, we still love a good treat here and there. But overall, we both strive to eat in a more whole food, holistic, metabolic way and feed our families that way. But I wouldn't say we're crunchy.
If you think of the people you follow on the internet that are crunchy, we are a far cry. Not because we don't want to be that.
We appreciate what the crunchies bring to us as far as like the farms in our area and like the food that we get through being able to purchase from the farms. Like I appreciate that.
I just don't have the motivation to like learn every oil and like know all of that. And it's like, I'm not even 100% sure. So it's like, I just gotta, do my thing. And I mean, my grandpa eats like white powder donuts every morning and he's like practically 100. So it's like, you just don't understand. Like my grandma lived to be like 100. It's like some of these people you're like, they have had really great quality of life.
No, I don't understand that.
And then some of the crunchiest die.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyways, y'all, happy 100th episode. By the way, y'all, thank you for joining us. You are such a huge part. Without you, we would not have this sisterhood. Yeah. We're all a part of this together, linking arms as the sisterhood. And on this 100th episode, again, if you haven't downloaded our 30-day devotional called Reaching Beyond Myself, you can get it at girldefined.com/devotional. And if you appreciate this podcast, 100 episodes in, if there's been any episode where you're like, that was awesome, I really appreciate that, I want more of this, then please give us a thumbs up, a like. I know you can do it on Spotify now, Apple, a comment, a review.
Please.
5 stars is so encouraging. It helps other people find it. It takes like 1 second and we do read them and we are so encouraged by what you guys say.
We read those only the 5 stars. I do actually look at the stars.
Okay. We love you guys so much and we can't wait to chat next time.